Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So we just got started. We tackled at least one other agenda item while we were getting the meeting up and running. So we're ready now to dive into RFP stuff with you.
Great.
I can just do a little bit of an overview on our end. So the draft went out, I think, last week for people to review and start to send some comments in on. The only comments that I received on the draft were from Caroline. And it was a good observation about some of the language we have on page, I believe it's between pages 6 and 7. The letter of interest, we state on page 6 that the letter of interest should address the developer's vision for the site and project design and should include a similar project and provide an example of the building design and exterior materials.
Mhm.
And then on page 7, there's a box that has the information about what should be included in the LOI. I think the question is what we have there reflecting what we're asking for on page 6, and should we make that a little bit more apparent that we are looking for that? Or based on conversations that we had before, are we maybe trying to move away a little bit from asking for more information rather than less? And should we maybe not require that they include projects and project materials?
So my intention, which apparently probably isn't very clear, is I want what I thought we were doing is show us a similar project, and because we're interested in design, show us the materials and the site plan that you used for that, so we can get an idea of kind of who you are as a developer and the level of commitment. So it says the developer should include a similar project and provide an example of building design and exterior materials used down at the bottom of 6. And that's, I guess, what I was thinking, rather than requiring them to draw up things or, at this point, if you can give us something that's indicative of what you would anticipate could occur on the site, that would be acceptable at this stage of the game.
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
But maybe if it's not clear, maybe we just need to tweak the wording a little.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any of the comments that they would like to make?
Bill had a couple just little spots to fix,
Yep, just
which we can incorporate.
on page 3. We mentioned that in that second paragraph, most recently, the city has enhanced the area along the Otter Tail River near the downtown. We include splash pad there. We haven't done that yet. That's coming this summer. We should just tweak that wording since it will be in. Yes. Then on page 4, under current infrastructure and utilities, the third line below that utilizes, that has to be utilities. It's just a spelling, and of course, spell check on that, so. Maybe, can I ask one other question?
Sure, because it's you. Well,
Thank you. On page 2, in the last paragraph, the third line up, the developer may also require all of the site, although an easement for public trail purposes must be included in the site design. I was going to say, is that the port's intention that a public easement must be in there? I'm not saying it should or shouldn't. I just trying to remember back. So I highlighted it myself just as I was rolling through.
It seemed to me that the intention of the port is to have some sort of public access remain, but we could change that wording to may if we want to be a little bit more.
because my comment was actually on the opening paragraph at the top. The last 3 lines say the development site will be adjacent to a regional trail and public access to the river and is a short half-mile. And I wondered if we shouldn't say we propose to do that as opposed to Yeah, because if we say will, then I would say we're committing ourselves to the fact that we have to do it,
Good point.
as opposed to kind of,
But are we committed to that? I think that was.
I think we're committed to it, but it's, if we put it in writing and somebody comes along and they want to, then I think we have to do it. Then we got to figure out how we're going to fund it.
Sooner than later is what
Yeah.
you're trying to say.
I think it might be a thing of timing more than anything. And if we soften the language, proposed, we can still have the intent that that's our goal. But we're also not kind of like nailing down then where the trail has to go.
So if we soften the language and the developer comes back and say, I don't want the, I don't want the trail.
Then we have a decision to make.
Yeah.
If I might add too, I guess that's the question. I was under the impression from the last meeting that you did want a trail, regardless of whether it gets installed now or with the development or in the future. I would guess that if you don't tell them you want a trail easement, they won't give you one, you know, and then you'll have to negotiate. I guess
Just weren't sure. where it was going.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I was-
what we.
And I think leaving it that with their proposal, then they should include it, but it's a chicken and egg, which one comes first, because we're not going to do the trail until they have their piece done.
I guess therefore having the easement in there, you're probably good because you're getting the easement. Good at some time in the future. So
Yeah, and it can work into
That's-
their plans kind of too.
So maybe what I'm hearing is on page 2 at the top, instead of saying it will be adjacent to the regional trail, that we can say something more like the city's committed to a future installation. So the timing's vague, but then it
Yep.
ties into the dedication of the easement.
Yeah.
So then the word must remains.
I mean, you could use the word should, that's pretty strong, but it's not so strong.
And did we decide on allowing them to develop less than all of it? Or is that ridiculous?
I think we did.
think we
I think the consensus was if somebody wanted to do it in 3 phases, for example. You
I
know,
mean, there
and
was a
commit-
spot in there that said multiple developers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
Thanks.
I just have a couple of things we can. On page 3, economic information. We start out with industries with most jobs at the county level. And then everything else is city. Is that intentional just to go kind of like larger scope and then smaller, or did we want to just talk
Just city.
city city stats?
We sure can. I think the only reason why is because at the county, because you're the county seat, you know, it takes on a little bit larger framework, but either way is fine.
I don't have strong opinion, just something. I had to read it twice just to go, wait, now
Mhm.
now we're all city after that, right?
Maybe we can change it to just blend into, like there is a fairly high concentration, no, as the county seat, there is a fairly high concentration of jobs in healthcare and social services, as would be expected for the community as a regional center.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just one more thing on page 3, is it important to add the number of jobs or what kind of scale that Amazon distribution site entails?
That may
Employing
be-
50. Or,
We do know that they have said it would be, I think, what, 150 to get started?
But is that full-time equivalent or is that? Yeah,
so it's hard to
yeah.
parse that out, which it actually is. So maybe it's not necessary.
I also did wonder about, I know they can look it up, but we wrote in that page 3 in that simple paragraph, the city has seen a decline in manufacturing jobs down from 18% in 2021. It kind of seems like a negative. Like, why you want to come to a community that's dying? Because they lost 18% of their jobs in a year.
Well, is it saying
Well,
that the
it's saying-
jobs are gone or just that the people are gone?
It depends how you want to read it.
Mhm.
That's
Well-
interesting. Opportunity to recapture these positions.
Yeah. But this is housing.
Yes.
We're looking at more housing, not,
No.
we're not selling this to a manufacturing.
Right.
But-
Let's reword that.
Okay.
No, I know that, but it says we declined at manufacturing jobs by 18%.
So we should be looking at robot housing.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah.
Okay, I'll be here all week.
A computer server room,
What?
a server room.
Yeah.
It's too-
You have anything else, Bridget?
No, thank you.
Brent, did you have anything?
No.
Obviously, Carol, you have any more thoughts?
Well, I would say it's very well done. It's organized well. It reads easily. So thank you.
Good job, Kim.
Oh,
Tom?
thanks. Although most of it was your outline originally, so.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was very well put together. I didn't really see anything to add or change.
Rebecca, anything else?
No, I think leaning into the need for housing just based on, the market is important.
I had a question that.
Oh, I have one other one
Yeah, go
too.
ahead.
On the last page, we have this little commuters thing. It's got a train on it. I want to know where in Fergus I can catch that train.
You can jump on anyway.
I kind of didn't know whether there was another like thing we could use other than a train.
Attractive.
Okay, let me check. I know it, it's just a computer program, so let me double check. Maybe it's another car.
Just another car
A
Yeah.
bigger,
I want a fat bike,
pickup.
fat tire bike.
there you go, a bike. Yeah, I suppose this is just pulled from Esri.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I don't know whether we can. I kind of like it as a overall slide. So it's good from that point of view. I'm gonna use this on Thursday.
Okay,
It's, there's something else,
okay.
but that was my only kind of comment on that.
I
Okay.
had a philosophical question, I guess, when Caroline and I were going back and forth about her questions about page 6 and 7, I was wondering, and Kim, I'm hoping you can maybe help us answer this too, just based on your past experiences, but I think we're assuming that with this RFP, we're gonna get really maybe some well-established developers. But what do we think the odds are of maybe somebody locally who doesn't have like a huge portfolio in their background that would be interested in this site? And then what's our appetite for entertaining projects from a developer like that? I mean, are we?
Heard murmurings.
No, not really, but I'm just curious, like, is our language, like, is it broad enough that somebody locally will feel that they stand a chance? And is
I would-
that,
You'd like to hope so in the fact that we're saying that you're not having to take on board the entire thing.
Yeah.
That you can break it down.
and we should still have some standards that they are able to hit when we're seeing what they're proposing. So I was just curious where other people's thoughts.
I mean, I'm willing to look at just about anybody, but after the whole Tower Road incident, I want to make sure we thoroughly look into the background of everybody we consider. Because I'm not willing to go through that one again.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we definitely want to do our due diligence and check references and, kind of a case by case type of thing.
It's good enough for me.
So obviously we got some comment revisions to make.
Mhm.
So what's Timeline now.
I don't really have an answer. I guess, I had talked about, I would like to do it, after the first of the year, kind of get through the holidays, obviously. So, I don't have a particular, thought on that. Probably maybe mid-January, just kind of when everybody's back on board. Not because it will take 2 weeks to get the changes, but just because this kind of stuff, you want to catch people's eyes, so you don't want them coming back from vacation or being out and then it gets piled on, or their email is one of 300 or what have you.
So we could have like the final kind of copy for the, say, the January Port Authority meeting, and then we could approve it.
Oh,
Or
okay.
Let's decide that. Do we want to do a whole nother meeting of looking at the draft, or do we want to have these changes made? Maybe we send them out electronically and then mid-January is when it actually goes live.
I think that would work.
That would work.
I have one more question.
Yeah. Bridget has one more question, Kim, if you couldn't hear that.
In terms of, to your point, housing, it's on a river. A rare opportunity to develop homes along a river. Do we put that word on the cover, river development? Or, and is it redevelopment if there's nothing on it? Or is it just the
Yeah.
development?
Oh, good point.
Because
I
then
think
In my opinion, it's redevelopment because you had something on there, and even though you cleaned it up, they still have to function under some of the rules about the cleanup plans and stuff. I don't want to indicate it's a greenfield site,
thank you
fair.
for clarifying.
That's still.
but I don't think it would be a bad idea to have, like 29.5 acre river redevelopment site, or, kind of throw river in a little bit.
Well, beautiful river, because
Yeah.
a lot of them aren't, but.
Good point, Bridget.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Get a brownie point.
I- No.
Rare opportunity. I really like those ones too.
Mhm.
Right, so in that case, then we can leave it that we'll make the amendments and then circulate it. And then hopefully on the January meeting, we can go forward with the timetable and go live.
Well, so part of it is that there is a timeline laid out in here, so we'll narrow some of this down before it can go live. So, like when we want the letter of interest due. And then every piece of the puzzle that falls in after that.
I got one more question.
Yeah.
Now that we're looking at the main side of it. How important is it to put that 29.5 acre in front? Or since they can break it up, would that be an intimidating number for someone? Be like, yeah, I can't do that.
Kim, could you hear that?
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna actually send it to some big guys, and 29 is fine. I'm guessing your local people, it might not be as fine. But I don't think 30 acres is a lot.
Well, I mean, they're all gonna read through it and it clearly states on there could be multiple developers. working.
Mhm.
It's a good thought, though.
Not as good as Bridget's.
I just would add, it kind of works both ways, because if you're also kind of into it, then you've got enough land to really do something, some mixed residential, you can have some space, instead of sometimes you're redeveloping like 3 acres or 5 acres and you're really just jamming it in on a small spot. So it can kind of work both ways depending on what kind of builder you are.
I think it would be good for us to look at it one more time.
Okay.
Well, but we still need to come up with a timeline of like if we, even if we kind of like, if day one is the day or day zero is kind of when we're going to go live with the RFP is, then how long are we gonna wait? 30 days, 60 days
Right.
to receive letter of intent? And then what sort of like time scale do we want to put between each of these kind of markers that we've got?
I'm trying to remember what our time scale was for our first RFP. Was it out for? I think it was over a month.
Yeah, and I think we extended it because then we hadn't got anybody
Yeah.
back.
Kim, what are your thoughts on the length of time for the RFP to be out there?
Probably about 30 days. People are gonna do it at the end anyhow. I mean, like, you know, so if you extend it, they'll just extend their time. I also think you guys had a lot of detail. I would just do the letter of interest and then maybe the rankings, like in a general sense, you know, within 2 weeks. And then potential interviews, you know, just kind of bracketed instead of actual dates.
Okay.
They just kind of want to know when something's gonna happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, they don't want to be waiting 6 months.
Mhm.
Not that you would make them, but so I think just a general time frame. And I can ask a friend of mine if 30 days seems to make sense. I kind of feel like it does, because what we're trying to do is not make them do a lot of work. They do a letter, they read it, they do a letter, they grab a couple proposal or projects that they've worked on. They write, you know, kind of why they're interested in what they could see happening. And that's kind of it a little bit, you know what I mean? So the idea is to make it easy to kind of hook them in, and then we can hopefully get a couple options, and then the group can really start to weigh in on the individual projects.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so I feel like what I heard from Bridget is maybe we do want to do. Kim makes some updates to this draft, maybe ask your friend about timeline and then come back to us at the January meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, and then from there we'll develop, let's have it
time
out,
frame.
yeah. And if we're, I mean, because with the draft, we can start right away in February.
Yeah.
Or even at the end of January,
Okay, or just push it right away after that meeting.
or that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't care if we look at it again.
Yeah.
It's gonna be almost done over this.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't,
Need to get out.
if there's more of an urgency to get it done, that's, I agree.
It's different.
I mean, I think we
Okay.
can circulate the amendments.
Okay.
And then
Just by
basically,
email.
then we can define the timeline on January.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, so Kim, not another meeting. We'll do updates out by email. Everyone will say, yep, looks good to me. And then we'll just start pushing it out from there.
Yep. And we'll just put it in a schedule, and then anybody can comment if they're uncomfortable about it. So.
Right.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
And if
Nothing-
any of you have any friends that are developers, send me an email, because we'll put them on the list. Anybody you ever talk to, be great. You know, sometimes it's more about the connection and knowing the people or knowing the community. So
Roofer and Co would be a good one.
Yeah, those are the circles that I travel in.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Next, moving back.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
good seeing you. Bye-bye.
This-
Okay. So this is all we have left, right? It's just the shovel ready sites? Okie dokie, so where did I leave off? Looking at a Fergus Falls specific program. These were some of the things that could be presented to developers as part of that program. Easements, location of utilities, proposed roadway extensions, public infrastructure, etc. So this would differ from the state program in just a few Not like super significantly, but in a few ways. So just be like a scaled back version of what the shovel ready program at the state level is. So costs based on phase one environmentals and geotechnical reports that we've done in the past. Oops, let's click on. We would need to be budgeting between 7,000 and 15,000 a parcel to get these reports and everything put together and available for a developer to access. And looking at probably, depending on the time of year, because winter is difficult, so they would need to be happening in warmer weather when they can actually get into the ground. Usually I think like a 3-month turnaround time between when we would engage a company to do it, because we do not have we cannot do geotechnical reports internally. It would have to be contracted out. Usually about 3 months, I think, before we would see a report come back. So not a huge amount of time, but just something to be aware of. And then I just listed off the port properties that we still have available for sale currently. I did not include Norgren in this list because we are currently doing a study on Norgren right now, and it's housing. That's not really something you would include in a shovel ready site program generally. Brent,
These are ones you want to do a shovel ready?
these are the only ones we currently own that we would be able to do that.
Now, how many of those Progress Drive ones there already had a shovel ready done on them before?
Good question.
Last 5 were included in the geotech that factor did.
Those last 5 were, yes. The top ones were not. So those do exist. I don't think that they surveyed though. So the survey would still need to be done on those. And this, unfortunately, when they were initially entered, when the Progress Drive sites were initially entered into a shovel ready program, I don't know if requirements were different or if there was just a mistake made at the state level, but the there was no Alta survey that was ever done on those sites, nor were geotechnical reports ever done. So when they requested those to add to the state program, they didn't exist. So that's the point when they said, okay, well, your sites are no longer considered shovel ready from the state program side of things. So that's why we say they used to be shovel ready. It's because there were pieces of the puzzle that apparently never got put into place.
And even the way they were before, I mean, when they brought this up before, they said the shovel ready was only good for so many years. And then it would have to be done again. And then we did all this money on Progress Drive. And none of them properties have sold. And then to turn around and tell the taxpayers that we want to blow $7,000 to $15,000 a piece on all these other properties, especially right now with the way the budgets and everything are. I mean, it's the Port Authority wanting to do it, but it's eventually the taxpayers that got to flip for it. And right now, I mean, like I said, we got 4 or 5 of them up there that were done before, and now all the specs have changed. And what if we do it now and nothing happens, and then 10 years down the road, the specs change again, and then we got to turn around and do it again. And,
What is it?
you know,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
yeah, and it's just like, I mean, how many people have actually turned around and said, well, no, we're not interested. You don't have anything that's shovel ready.
Right, and what does it take to maintain them? Do we know that? I mean, I can imagine we have to redo it, even those older ones that to be redone, actually? Isn't there just?
To maintain the
Isn't there just
shovel
a-
ready.
Yeah, isn't there a certification process? We do a bunch of work and then there's a maintenance piece, but there's not, we don't redo it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what would need to be added or redone as time went on as to remain part of the shovel ready site. So I'm
Yeah,
not
even
sure.
those old ones, it'd be good to find out why don't they qualify now?
Well,
I think because of the
said
Alta
it, it's
survey.
because of the surveys. They
Which we
don't
didn't do in the first
exist.
place.
Correct.
So that's nothing wasted then. I guess that's the question, is if we wasted anything, it doesn't seem yet that we know that. And then what does it take to keep them up? Even if we did it all today on a site, is it expensive to keep renewing that? I think it all has to be done with in regard to what you're saying. Have we really lost any deals because of that? Sure, it's easier to sell if you've got shovel ready, there's no question, but you know, we should be able to sell through that too. And part of it is what, you know, how long does it take to get them shovel ready? Can that be part of what we're purporting? You know, we'll pay for this stuff if you're going to commit to come here or something like that.
Yeah,
Have
there
we
you
thought
go.
of that at
A
all?
commitment up front before.
Yeah,
Well, and that's what we ended up doing with Vector Windows. I mean, we
Yeah.
paid for that geotechnical report for them, which is why we still have access to it. So we did use that as a tool to try to entice them onto those sites.
Tom?
So would it be an option to just kind of make up our own category and call it like ready to dig? You know, and
I
And
think that's
then-
what we're proposing.
yeah,
What we're proposing.
yeah, I mean, not have to fit into somebody else's box, but you know, understanding what developers need and saying, yep, Fergus has sites that are ready to dig. And here we go. We got our own cool little marketing plan.
well, ready to develop, maybe not dig yet, right? Because if you short these things that we may or may not do.
Yeah, like developer ready or whatever, you know, Fergus Falls is developer ready.
You brand it that way, you are in control of the parameters.
Yeah.
So to Brian's point, you're not gonna have to redo any of those surveys in the years when they expire with the state program. It's you, the Port Authority, that's creating or establishing one of those parameters.
It's kind of like LEED certification, you know, you can build a very environmentally friendly building, but to get the official LEED stamp is, I understand, quite a bit more expensive. So if we can, you know, have a program along those same lines and market it accordingly.
I mean, the sad part is that like the Progress Drive ones, you don't, each one is a separate report. I mean, that's, you know, the cost and time is not much difference for a 0.85 acres versus a 3.3 acres. So,
Well, and I guess to be clear with the Vector Windows, I mean, they looked at that whole state.
site,
We would have to really explain that to a developer that that was done when it was going to be bought as a full,
as a
like that was a chunk.
complete, yeah.
Yeah, so we wouldn't be able to say, this is your exact report for this single parcel.
But I think it would give somebody a good basis on which to, it would might push them to buy X lots over Y lot, if that's what they were interested in. But I like Tom's kind of, you know, ready to fly kind of like program.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fergus Falls is developer ready.
yeah,
Yeah, but then we should be ready to spend the money.
yeah.
So you have the authority to tell them that with a letter of intent. You know, if they commit and do it, they won't owe it. We'll pay for it. But if they back out, they're gonna pay for it. Here's the estimated cost and these things. To get some kind of approval to do it, I'm sure the city and everything, but the reality is then we're not on the hook till we have commitment.
And that way there's no upfront cost.
Right. And they're not inhibited whatsoever. So if they're saying, well, we don't want to do that, well, then they're really not. They're really not committed.
Serious.
I mean, the other thing is, I mean, how many people have we lost because we don't have a shovel ready site? I mean, have we lost anybody or not?
I mean, with these Progress Drive properties, when we're talking about shovel ready, when we're talking, what we're saying with these properties is that they can connect to sewer water. They're all ready to go in that respect. But when you're talking about something like the property by the racetrack, I mean, that does not have connection to water, sewer, any of that stuff. So that's a huge barrier.
Yeah, and we will have some that we lose because we don't have it. There's just no question. I don't know what the number is, because some are just flying over the top looking. Oh, they eliminate us because of that. But I don't know if it's worth having them to get that.
But I think
Because-
a project like that, it's, you know, if there's that bigger commitment towards coming to Fergus, we're gonna have time
Mhm.
to come up with a solution.
Yep.
On sewer and water.
Yep. Our developer ready thing has to be good. I'm sorry, I'm just going without raising my hand. Go ahead. Sorry.
It was more that you whacked her, but.
I wonder if there's some way also that we can get reports from Natalia, from the kinds of requests she's getting and what people are looking for that we don't have yet.
And I think she's on that.
So maybe at the next meeting, you can kind of,
I'll have a whole year of.
Yeah.
metrics that I can report back.
yeah,
That'll be helpful, I think.
so we'll put entire on the agenda for.
Sorry, you can continue.
No,
Yeah.
that's
Phil?
And then as we look forward to the 2024 budget, you know, if there are things we need to be thinking about spending on different parcels, we're gonna have to start levying for that. So we have funds to pay for that geotechnical or whatever whatever the need may be. So I like the thought of, yeah, let's start in January. Let's start looking at that, and then we can gear up to when we build the next budget now.
So like, just question, if you don't mind, if we had one today. that said, we'd love to commit to a letter of intent to do that. And Clara and Natalia feel we need 30,000 to do it. Would we do that? Would we have money to do it?
Technically.
We'd find it.
We would, and but we don't have much left in the
Oh.
Port Authority for spendable resources because we're making the
The
first 2
payments.
years payments on the dairy.
But when we
Oh, sure.
sell the dairy.
Right. So we're
not
doing
yet,
it right.
then.
And
Yes, so I mean, by
Mhm.
prioritizing this year, I think that's been critical.
Yeah,
So it's likely we could meet it is what you're saying, and that's great.
in
And-
one way or the other, I think we'd
We
have
can,
to.
we can always borrow it
So-
from the city. We
What's
just have
Well,
to,
I think we've been- I think we've been responsive in the past when a developer
Right.
has come along and said, I'm interested, but I'm looking for this. And I think, I mean, Vector Windows is a perfect example. We were able to pay for that geotechnical for them and have that all set up.
But I think we've got to gear up more for that in the future. We're gonna do that. Make it
Yeah, I
conscious.
agree.
We need to prepare.
And I'm not-
Reserves.
I'm not looking at Clara for you for that, but I think, and Andrew, at a tax levy committee level, if that's a priority, we gotta,
yeah,
just gotta gear up.
budget for
that.
it.
Yeah,
Just one good thing, why we're talking about this is the support requested more information about shovel ready and what our options are. So I just thank you for kind of gathering the data because I think we were just like, well, how much is it? What does it
Right.
entail?
Yeah.
And so now at least we know, well, okay, someone's gonna come to us and want these sites and we kind of have to be prepared for that 7 to 15. You know, and we're talking about that we support that builder, developer, company in doing that. So thank you. I think that information was able to lead us down this road a little further.
Yeah.
On what we want to do.
Hey, I might, let's see, 5:15. I might ask just like a slight philosophical question. So we started going down the route of like a shovel ready site, which is where you just have everything ready on a plate. Now I think we're getting less, we're moving away from shovel ready in my mind and more to like kind of an incentive package almost, or like a marketing package. So is that okay? Is that how we're thinking about this now? This is more
I
of
think
a,
marketing package is probably more,
Well, I just think that we know more information now.
Okay.
Right? I mean, we
Yeah.
just have more knowledge.
I just want
about
to
what
make
it
sure
would
that
take
I'm,
When somebody steps forward, or we know economically what it would take, we know
Well,
feasibility what it would take.
yeah, let's hear next month from Natalia, because if the gap's tighter than we think, we may have to pay some money and have some ready. But
Okay.
if it's not, then I think we can have it available through a letter of intent where they're on the hook, but so the marketing package should happen no matter what, right? I mean, we should be ready to go.
yeah, and we do, I mean, when requested, we do have all of that information available for developers, so that does exist. Beyond the geotechnical and the survey, which are separate. But yeah, okay, so Natalia will come back next month with some metrics for us, and then we can just continue the discussion.
Good.
Okay.
anybody have anything else? If not, meeting is adjourned.